All right, the censorship and the data hiding and the fabrication of our reality continues, folks. What's going on, everybody? Jeremy from the Independence Channel. Welcome to Real Truth. Today's episode, we're going to get into a peer-reviewed article that came out a number of days ago, and I like to sit on these things while I read them and reread them and then reread them again and then reread them again and then write a summary, which is what I've done. I've written a summary on this Lancet journal article called The Community Transmission and Viral Load Kinetics of the SARS-CoV-2 Delta Variant in Vaccinated and Unvaccinated Individuals in the United Kingdom. So this study and these statistics, this data came from the United Kingdom. And for anybody who's been paying attention, the data from the United Kingdom and the data from other countries that are brought forth are not reflective of the data being presented by the CDC and the NIH. And if we keep in mind here, the Lancet is known for fabricating information and then having to retract their statements, but only after weeks of corporate media propaganda pushing that information from said journal articles and then having to retract them and putting them on page 195,000 of the daily newspaper, right? So I'm embellishing that number a little bit, but anyway, you understand what I'm saying. So in any case, I wrote a summary myself as a responsible scientist with self-respect and the self-dignity to decide that I'm not going to be brainwashed by anybody pandering to any of my identities, because I'm just a human being with a single independent tension point in the universe that understands that we are all of the primitive same consciousness, and we seek to live in that frequency of truth, or I do anyway, and those who don't, perhaps that's what anxiety is for. It's a tool maybe used when your body or your soul is kind of deviating from its own true purpose, that true self, right? Anyway, let's get back to this. So I wrote a summary, but I also included evidence from PhD professors, Mr. and Mrs. Weinstein, who have been at the forefront of this discourse, and their information has been censored. It's been deleted, and they have been forced to seek alternative approaches to presenting information via other platforms, because YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, all of these big tech companies who have monopolized the information space have been getting away with misinformation, and while simultaneously gaslighting and accusing others of doing that which they themselves are doing. So they're censoring, omitting the truth, banning data which doesn't complete the data set, which means that we're not practicing the scientific method here, right? And so in any case, I'm going to go ahead and get into the summary, and then I'm going to provide a little bit of their content just to reinforce what I'm trying to say. I don't mean to use all these people's content, but it reinforces, and this is part of the diplomatic back channel that we create for ourselves, by which we can exchange information. I can point you in the right direction, because I don't have time or the luxury or the resources to make this my full-time gig, nor do I really want to. I would like to help people get better as a certified exercise physiologist who cares about the well-being of people, who cares about the fear that's being injected into people's minds that creates these chronic diseases anyway, with all these hormonal regulations that our body has, chronic fatigue syndrome, all of these things in women, men as well, depression, anxiety, all of these things matter to me. And this is all a part of it. So let's go ahead and get started on this summary. And then I'll show a short clip of the two PhD professors who are taking it upon themselves to have some self-dignity and respect to come forward with information despite the mainstream narrative. We're going against the mainstream grain on this one. All right, so this is up-to-date information published on October 29, 2021, so 2 weeks ago. The SARS-CoV-2 Delta variant is highly transmissible and spreading globally, including in populations with high vaccination rate. The investigators in this study aim to investigate the transmission and viral load kinetics in vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals with mild Delta variant infection in the community. Now, interestingly enough, you're going to see that they actually included in the unvaccinated statistics for both alpha variants and the Delta variant, which I find interesting, and I wonder if that skews the data in any way for what we will discover to be the findings. Now, what these folks did was they did a prospective longitudinal cohort study. And a cohort study follows groups of individuals over time to investigate the causes of disease, establishing links between risk factors and outcomes. Cohort studies prospectively proceed from exposure to outcome. In this way, scientists can investigate groups with and without exposure of interest, and then follow the exposed and unexposed groups over time to determine outcomes. As the study is conducted, outcome from subjects in each cohort is measured and relationships with specific characteristics can be determined. All right, so they sought to analyze the transmission risk by vaccination status and compared the viral load trajectories from fully vaccinated individuals with Delta infection and unvaccinated individuals with Delta alpha and pre-alpha infections. Okay, so there's where they kind of added that alpha and pre-alpha infections to the unvaccinated, which I find interesting. This is what they do. They will define the unvaccinated as anyone who has received or either not received the vaccine at all or received a vaccination within 14 days of being infected. They're counting those people as unvaccinated. If you get infected within 14 days of injection, you are considered unvaccinated. And so those statistics for those who are getting, who may submit themselves to the vaccine and get sick, if it's within 14 days, they're counted as unvaccinated. And that goes into the VAERS system for the CDC and the NIH to then purport their numbers. And that's how they purport the numbers for the unvaccinated, right? Okay, so the primary outcomes for the epidemiological analysis, there were two analyses. There were the epidemiological analysis, which assessed the secondary attack rate in household contacts stratified by vaccination status and the index cases vaccination status. And the primary outcome for the viral load kinetics analysis were to detect the differences in the peak viral load, the viral growth rate, and viral decline rate between participants according to SARS-CoV-2 variant and vaccination status. Now, this study was conducted between September 13th, 2020 and September 15th, 2021, so longitudinal, okay? It was studied over time. The cohort was studied over a period of time from exposure to outcome. The findings were as follows. The secondary attack rate in household contacts exposed to the Delta variant was 25% for fully vaccinated individuals compared with 38% in unvaccinated individuals. The median time between second vaccine dose and study recruitment and fully vaccinated contacts was longer for infected individuals. The secondary attack rate among household contacts exposed to fully vaccinated household cases, which was 25% for the vaccinated and 23% for the unvaccinated. 39% of the infections in fully vaccinated household contacts arose from fully vaccinated epidemiologically linked index cases. Although peak viral load did not differ by vaccination status or variant type, it increased mostly with age. That was a really big one. So despite your vaccination status, whether you're vaxxed or not, the peak viral load doesn't change. So you're still getting the same load as you unknowingly get infected, having not known that the virus or the vaccine that was supposed to prevent you from getting COVID, actually you still get it, and then you're able to spread it with your equally high viral load as somebody who's unvaccinated. And here I thought this was a battle of the unvaccinated, a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Okay. And the last finding was that fully vaccinated individuals with Delta variant infection had a faster mean rate of viral load decline than did unvaccinated individuals with pre-alpha, alpha, or the Delta variant infections. With individuals, faster viral load growth was correlated with higher peak viral load and slower decline. All right, so in conclusion, vaccination reduces the risk of Delta variant infection and accelerates viral clearance. However, fully vaccinated individuals with breakthrough infections have peak viral loads similar to unvaccinated cases, and thus, vaccinated individuals can efficiently and effectively transmit infection, including to fully vaccinated contacts. Host virus infections or interactions early in infection may shape an entire viral trajectory. And when they say may, that means for future reference, there should be some studies conducted to find out exactly whether that's the case or not. But in any case, the moral of this story, the point of all of this, is the narrative that this is a battle of the unvaccinated. Vaccinated people are getting COVID. Vaccinated people are spreading COVID. In many cases, unknowingly. And this is a narrative that needs to be crushed, because it's keeping public discourse from occurring. And we need this in our society. We're losing jobs, we're losing benefits, we are losing our purpose, the things that we might love to do. We like to work in the art community. That's what I did part-time as a scientist with a minor in art history. I read an NPR article one time where they were talking about how patients trusted doctors more so and had better relationships with their doctors, more so when those doctors also had a background in arts and humanities. And I took that to heart, and I really wanted to expose myself to a diverse and eclectic amount of information and data from our socioeconomic and demographic status. This is very important when understanding holistically who we are as human beings, and having the complete data set is crucial. We don't see the corporate media projecting this information to the public. Not Fox News, not CNN, not MSNBC. Fox News did it briefly, but they should be putting this out there every day. This should be one of the top headline news articles, and it's not. And so with that being said, you hear it from me, a published scientist. Let's hear it from some big dog scientists, Mr. and Mrs. Dr. Weinstein, who have been part of this public discourse for a long time. They've been banned in many cases. They've been censored in many cases. But here we are trying to get this information out respectfully, okay, and with dignity. So listen to these two doctors explain and reinforce my summary.
Lancet. It's called Community Transmission and Viral Load Kinetics of the SARS-CoV-2 Delta B.1.617.2 variant in vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals in the UK, a prospective longitudinal cohort study. So we're going to say a few things about this, but let me just go right here first. Interpretation. Vaccination reduces the risk of Delta variant infection and accelerates viral clearance. Nonetheless, fully vaccinated individuals with breakthrough infections have peak viral load similar to unvaccinated cases and can efficiently transmit infection in household settings, including to fully vaccinated contacts. Host virus interactions early in infection may shape the entire viral trajectory. So I may have my screen back, Zachary. Thank you, sweetie. Additional takeaways from this work before we talk about what this means. There's two other pieces of work that they cite, which I was not aware of. They cite work out of Singapore, which found that only 8% of COVID cases in unvaccinated people were with the Delta variant, whereas the Delta is representing nearly all the COVID cases among the vaccinated.
That's fascinating.
Right. That's fascinating. Apparently, households are indeed the site of most SARS-CoV-2 transmission globally. And this has been one of our drum beats from the beginning. You're sending sick people home to their families where they can and probably will infect them. Well, yes, that is what the policy has been, and apparently that is the site at which when it has been looked at, where are people getting sick? Most people are getting sick from COVID in their homes, from other people in their homes. But with regard to the present study, two additional results are that peak viral load did not differ by vaccination status or variant type, okay, but did increase modestly with age. So again, something that suggests, possibly why people may be getting sicker as they are older when they are infected with COVID. And finally, to a question about which I want to spend a little bit more time. In the present study, they found that the risk of infection increased with time in the 2 to 3 months since the second dose of the vaccine. So let me just say that again. And also, let's just point out that across every study that I've seen and all of the public health pronouncements, the numbers are being juked in so many ways. But one of the ways is that you're not called fully vaccinated until you are 2 weeks out from your final jab. And that means that a whole lot of stuff can happen in those first 2 weeks. And indeed in not the first 2 weeks, in the first, month or more between the moment that you have your first shot, if it's an mRNA shot for which you're expected to have two, and after the 2 weeks after you've got your second one. And so none of the things that happen to you in that time, do you fall into vaccinated status. So that's one thing. So we have this firm set point that has been handed to us without any explanation as to why, that you are only considered fully vaccinated 2 weeks after. And what these researchers find is that within 2 to 3 months, your immunity is waning, which is to say your risk of infection is rising. So this raises questions again and again for me about what it means to be vaccinated, right? If you're losing immunity 2 to 3 months after your final vaccine, at what moment really can you claim to be fully vaccinated? We've got this beginning point, and no one's told us an end point. We're now being encouraged to do boosters if you've already had your first ones, but it's illegitimate to have a start point and no end point. Really, after 2 or 3 months now, we are seeing in this study and across many studies that you're simply not as protected as you were. And so what does it even mean to be fully vaccinated?